Cheeky little nod, Elite Squad. Today I'm going to talk about dynamics and why they're so important in terms of a mixdown. Having good dynamics in your mixdowns is going to help you to be able to apply a certain amount of energy or emotion through your song. So this is why it's a really key concept to really grasp. The best thing about a piece of music is when you can really feel the changes in energy and the changes in emotion throughout the course of the piece. And dynamics plays a huge role in achieving this kind of effect. In order to first understand dynamics, I want to talk about what I call room theory. If you imagine any song is trapped in a box or a room, it's a 3D space. And if I play a bit of a song here, you can see here on this stereo analyzer where things are in the middle of the room or they're coming out to the left and the right. And on this other analyzer here, the frequency spectrum is basically sort of a 2D view of the room and how much is being filled up by the sound. So this is showing you the width of the song and also the levels in terms of the low or the high frequencies. Then you also have the depth, which is how you perceive how far away a sound is or how close it is. But it all ties into a 3D space. So when I think about a song, I think of basically a box, like a room. Now, once you understand this theory of a room, then you can really start to understand how dynamics exactly work. In essence, what makes dynamics is contrasts in how much this room is filled up or how empty the room is with sound. So from a very basic perspective, the intro of a song doesn't have as many loud sounds. It's a little bit quieter, a little bit more centered. And then when we get to the full drop of an electronic song, the room is really filled up with all sounds from all angles. So it's the contrasts between how empty or how full a room is that is the dynamics. It's the changing of what you see or perceive in that room. That is the dynamics. So just for an example, listen to the intro of this song and then when the drop comes in. So in the intro we had a lot less sounds, and then as the drop came in, everything was full. And that's a very basic way to understand dynamics, how you go from small to large. When you start to understand this, you can really think about the life of your track and how each element fits in to create the story. We take a listen to the first phrase of this track. So the dynamics are quite, everything's quite filled out and quite loud, except for there's a little space where there's a little vocal where it says yo. That's where the dynamics kind of shrink a bit and we get this little pause in the bass line. And then we go into this section here, which is the kind of second half of the phrase where the bass line comes out and we get a bit more breathing room, and then there's a little kind of lead that comes in. And essentially this is a dynamic switch to the beginning where there was a lot more energy. And so by switching up these two different sections dynamically, we then create more of a narrative in the song. So that's an example of how the phrase of a song can have different dynamics. The important thing to understand with dynamics is it doesn't happen only in the whole mix of your song, but also within the individual elements. So every element that makes up a song has its own level of dynamics. At 1 minute it's here, at 1 minute it's here, and it's the same with the overall song as well. We can go more specifically and think about the actual bass line. So the bass line obviously has a movement to it. It goes dum, no, 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 right? And that is essentially, it has its own level of dynamics as well, because it's going up and down in volume, it's going up and down in filtering, it's maybe changing in width a little bit as well. So you should pay attention to the dynamics of each individual element and also the whole mix. And you can always think about the dynamics in terms of the volume, how many frequencies are being filled up, the depth that you portray of the sound, and also how wide the sound is. These all come into play when you're talking about dynamics. So just by applying the theory of dynamics and thinking about it while you're writing music, it's just going to create a lot more of an interesting experience for the listener when you really nail this concept down. Hope that's a wicked tip for you guys. Anyway, I left my horse unlocked, so I better go.